Now I'm going to do a modern take on a very classic dish, bruschetta. Bruschetta you usually associate only with tomatoes, but there are so many different toppings that you can do. This is charred onion with pine nuts, sage, and pecorino cheese. It is an outstanding combination and so good on char grilled bread. Now I have a grill pan here and it's been heating for about 5 minutes. It's nice and hot. I know it's nice and hot too because of the thermo spot in the middle. It's bright red, so it's perfect to start charring our onions. Now 2 onions go straight on, no oil required. This is going to take about 15 minutes for them to get some good colour on them. The colour's there for flavour, and I'm going to finish them off in the oven later on to soften them. This is really important, so take your time. Open all the windows so it doesn't get too smoky. Now let's give these onions extra flavour. So in a mortar and pestle, I need to add a big clove of garlic along with a little bit of salt. Now, not just to flavour it, but it's also going to help it start to become a paste. So let's break that up and give that a good grinding. And you see what the salt does, it brings out the moisture. So that's looking great. Now I can add some anchovy. Now I like the anchovy in here because it gives it a really nice meaty flavour. You can leave it out if you don't like it. And again, mush it up and it dissolves. So you don't taste the fishiness at all with this. Now I'm going to add a hard herb, and the hard herb of my choice is sage. It is quite a strong herb, so you just need about 4 or 5 leaves. And again, we're going to bruise this until it becomes really fragrant. Now that's looking good, and the smell is just full on, but it's a good full on because it will go with the sweetness of those onions. Now, a little bit of balsamic vinegar can go in, and we need some olive oil to emulsify the whole lot together. And then a little bit more, so it just comes together. Now we can put that to the side, and while these onions are cooking, we can get some other things prepared. We're going to add some pine nuts. Now, we're going to add about 70 grams here, just onto a dry tray. About enough. Spread them out, and I'll put this in the oven until they're golden brown. Keep an eye on them because you don't want them to burn, and also keep an eye on your onions. Keep turning them until they're black all over. I can smell the pine nuts, and they are perfectly golden brown. Fantastic. Now you just want them to cool completely. The onions are looking great, and now I need to take them off, and we need to cook them until they're really, really soft. So just with a little bit of foil, 2 pieces, and wrap it up. And the second one. Perfect. And now these go in the oven for about 30 minutes or until they're really tender. Now, while my grill is still on and piping hot, I can get the bread ready. A little bit of sourdough. We want thick chunks to this. Those 2 onions will be enough for 4 pieces of bruschetta. So let's cut them quite even, and I am going to drizzle a little bit of olive oil on them. Just a small amount because my grill pan is non-stick, so I just want it just to get extra golden brown here. And now straight on the grill bars there, pressing down on them because I want to see those gorgeous grill marks on the bread, and give it about a minute on each side. And when those onions are ready, we're going to bring it all together. Now you don't want to get into these onions until they're cool enough to handle because you will burn yourself. And you can see how moist they are now from cooking in the oven. So we'll just remove it from the foil there. And I don't mind if there's a little bit of black because it's flavour. You don't want the whole lot because it'll be too smoky, but just remove the outer layer there. You can see how easy it is to take off, especially if it's been sitting there for about 10 minutes, just cooling a little bit. It'll loosen up. And this one too will take majority of the black part off. Yum. And now, if you've got a really big mortar and pestle, you could add this into the sage and the garlic mixture. But if you don't, what I do is just squash it. Oh, look at that. So soft. Onions, when they're raw, are really harsh. I don't like them at all. But when they've been cooked for a long time, they are my favourite thing because they're so sweet. Now what I'm going to do here is run my knife through it just a few times so we get small pieces because I don't want it to be really chunky on that toast there. So mush it up a bit. And that's the only way to describe it. We're really trying to bruise those onions, bring in the darker side to them over here. So the whole mixture gets that smoky flavour to it. And maybe one more time. Now that can go straight into a bowl. Perfect. Now let's garnish it with some of these pine nuts. You can crush the pine nuts if you like. I like the texture of them, so I'm going to leave them whole, and you can see how small they are. And for this intense mixture here, I'm going to add 1 teaspoon of it now. Just a little bit of that oil too, that flavoured oil. And then let's toss this together. This as an entree is just spectacular. You can tell your guest, oh, we're having bruschetta for an entree, and think, oh yeah, tomato bruschetta. And then you bring this out like, whoa, what have you got there? Something very fun, something interesting. I love it. Now, I'm gonna have a taste. Already, so good. But I think it can do with a good amount of this. So I'm just gonna throw it all in. There we go. And one last toss of this. And now we're ready to plate up. So you can see the griddle marks that are formed on that toast. That's what I'm looking for. And this, you just want to press really hard and squash those onions into the bread so it flavours the bread on that surface there. And we'll just put a few tablespoons on each. And you can see that I haven't added the extra olive oil yet to the toast. I'll do that in a moment there because that's just going to bring the whole thing together. And now for that olive oil, a drizzle of olive oil over the top. Use a really good olive oil because you're going to taste it. Gorgeous. A small amount of salt, just a small amount, not too much, because now we need some pecorino. Now pecorino is quite bitey. I love the flavour of this. You could use Parmesan for this. You could use buffalo mozzarella for this. A little bit of salted ricotta, yum. Even feta, that saltiness is what I'm looking for with this cheese. Goat's cheese, wonderful. And you want to do this right at the last minute. As you take it to the table, even do this at the table, rain all of that pecorino over the top. Maybe some more pine nuts. I'm just getting far too excited here, so I'll stop. And that is just scrumptious. Bruschetta, new style. Tomato, yeah, it's delicious in summer. This is a fantastic one to have in winter. Onion bruschetta, yummo.